Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Tuesday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, checking in with my guy, Drew Gann, a.k.a. Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck, how's it going in North Mississippi today?
It's good. I'll be honest with you, Rusty. I never know what to do with my hands when you're introducing me. I typically go the peace sign, but every time after I do it, I'm like, that was a mistake. But every time I continue to do it. So I guess in the comments, you can tell me, what do I do with my hands? As Ricky Bobby once said.
Hit him with the TA flex next time. Just let him know.
Yeah, maybe I want to do the hip chop, the DX, but nobody sees that.
No,
and
if you
don't see the hips, if you don't see the hands go to the hips, then this motion looks a little weird.
It does look a little weird. And maybe next time just slap your desk like the TA first team all defense, and we'll see if the mic shakes or the camera shakes and see what happens.
Yeah, we got options. We'll but it's good here in North Mississippi. Well, sunny, getting warmer. Don't even have anything to complain about.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're diving in. It was a rough weekend. We are recording this on Monday. Some work stuff's come up, so this is recorded on Monday. So we're not even going to talk about the Hawks game because we're assuming Grizz dub. Don't worry about it. Putting the weekend behind us. But we do have thoughts on the weekend, man. It was kind of an interesting weekend. I'm really going to feel bad if we lose to the Hawks after saying that. But Grizz dub, don't worry about it. Interesting weekend in a lot of ways. So let's dive right into the show.
All right. Well, we are going to start this Tuesday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show the same way we start every single Tuesday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show, and that's with me and Rusty, two best friends of a decade, just catching up, see what happened over the weekend. We call this segment our best and beef, where we give each other the best thing and the biggest beef of our weekend. So, Rusty, I set them up. You knock them down. What's the best thing that happened to you this weekend?
It was kind of a lead up to the weekend. Thursday, Maggie and I went to the MVP party for season ticket holders and had an awesome time with that. Got to meet some of the players. And I'm not a huge let me get your autograph, but that's the time and place for it. That's what they're there for. Right. They had booths set up for it. So I got my Jaren jersey signed, and I'm super stoked about that. I'm getting I didn't get a chance to get it yesterday when I was in Corinth, but I'm going to get a Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby has a frame that's got like some velvet that you can actually tack it in, and I'm going to frame it, and it's going to join the wall back there. Probably I'm going to move my job picture around a little bit. But I'll have my signed Jaren jersey hung up, and it was fun. We got to see, we saw Jared, BC, Vince, Luke, Scotty, Marvin Bagley III, and it was just a fun party. Then the Grizz players and some assistant coaches played Family Feud out on the court. We got to watch that, and it was hilarious watching Gigi and Jaren talk crap, get into it, back and forth. They were the two biggest personalities. Jay Huff is a weird dude. It was really funny. Everybody's celebrating at one point, and he just picks his chair up and he's rah, shaking his chair. He was just a weird guy, but it was funny watching. And then we went to the next game on Friday night, which was the outcome was a bummer, but the atmosphere was electric. It felt very much like a playoff game. The crowd was into it. We were into it, only to have victory snatched away from us in the final minutes with that OG3, which we'll get into here in a minute. But it was great Grizz weekend and a lot of fun down at the FedEx Forum for sure. How about you? Yeah,
I'm kind of with you about the autographs too. I'm not the type of person to bother a celebrity in public. I will always just say hey and try to strike up a conversation if we're standing somewhere together. Mm-hmm. Not that, by any means, friend of the show Gary Parrish is a celebrity by the same standards as Jerry Jackson Jr. was, but I walk up to him and I like him. I've listened to his show forever, and I'm very quick and not shy to just hey, how you doing, and get to talking. But I'm not the kind to trouble somebody in the supermarket hustling for autographs like some of these folks who just want to buy and sell memorabilia. I'm always kind of leery about that. I don't like it. But that was a time and place on Thursday for you. That's the whole purpose. For me, the best of my weekend was we had a combination birthday party on Saturday. We got to celebrate my baby boy's first birthday. His first birthday was Saturday. And my big boy, my 8-year-old BB, who everybody knows on this show, He turned 8 on his birthday is actually today when we're recording this on Monday, but we celebrated him on Saturday as well. And it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of kids over at the house. It was chaotic. It was loud. But all things considered, man, it was just a really nice party. And we got to celebrate them. And when you have a party at your house, there's pros and cons to that. The con is like you mess up your own house as opposed to like some other rented space.
Yeah.
But the pro is it's like you're comfortable, you're at home, and it requires you to stay at home. It's not running around toting a bunch of stuff everywhere, setting up party decorations at some rental spot, but you do it at home. And so I like doing it at home this weekend, and just being able to hang out with Banks and BB and the families that came to celebrate them. It was a lot of fun. And we had a Grizzlies themed party. Everybody was wearing their jerseys. We had a Grizzlies cake, and Rusty came through. I'll have to give a shout out to him. When he got his autographs, he also got autographs addressed to Braxton of Vince, Jaron, and Brandon Clark, and gave those to him yesterday, and he was thrilled. He made me go and put them up on his dresser so that nobody could get to them or touch them, or so they were in a safe spot. So that was a smashing success.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad I was going through and I was like, hey, I don't I'm not a huge autograph guy. And I didn't Maggie got her hat signed by BC, Jalen, Vince, and Jaron, which is great. That's awesome. But I don't want to be like, hey, can you sign that piece of paper for me? My name is Rusty. Can I have your autograph? No, I wanted Jaron to sign my jersey. So I was just like, hey, BC, he was the first one. I was like, hey, man, do you mind signing one of those to my nephew, Braxton? His birthday's coming up. He would love it. He was like, I got you, man. Absolutely. To Braxton. And then Jaron, same, and Vince, the same. And so it was grateful. I'm glad to be able to get those for him. So glad they were a hit.
He was stoked. And you got him the Grizz Legos that they gave out on Friday at the Knicks game. And
he cleaned up, man. He had a good weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you open that thing up, but those pieces are small. So we're going to have
37 of them.
No small children in the house at all when we go to build that one, or we will never get it put together.
I don't know that I'm going to be able to get it put together with 432 tiny pieces in my old eyes, which we'll get to more of my old self here in the beef in just a second. But yeah, it's going to be fun to do, but it's going to be a task.
All right, Rusty. Well, what goes up must come down. To have a best, you must have a beef. What was your biggest beef of the weekend?
It started today. I recently read about this condition in a book a couple of times called the Gets, Gets, the Gets. And it's when you forget things. And today was one of those days, man. I packed my lunch and in my handy dandy camo lunch bag that I carry with me every day. I leave the house, I get out of my neighborhood, realize crap, it's on the table. So I come back and I get it. I go to one of my offices, I take it in there because I got a little snack that I was going to have for breakfast. Have that snack. I leave, go to another office, and left my lunchbox at that office. And it's just as I'm getting older, it's getting worse. I've got some timers, I guess, and the gets are getting worse as I'm forgetting my stuff all over the place. So I was just really frustrated with forgetting my lunchbox, not once, but twice. And now I got to make another trip back downtown to get it.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, and this may be way too personal for this, but I've started to wonder, if I need to get checked. I can't remember. And I've got a sports show in which I routinely take one beat too long trying to remember a Grizzlies player. I'm just like, something's going on. Why am I getting so slow at this?
I hear you.
I'm almost 33, not 63. Okay.
That's where I'm at, man. I will be 38 2 weeks, but I feel like my memory, I have and the worst, most frustrating part about this, humble brag, I guess, I have a really good memory. I remember names, numbers, faces, things very, very well. I remember things from middle school, but I can't remember to get my freaking lunchbox. What are we doing?
Well, and the thing for me is whenever I've struggled remembering things, the one thing that I can remember, I can recite sports stuff. Just like an encyclopedia when it comes to old school sports stuff, especially about teams that I love. I was a child that only watched Sports Center. I did not watch cartoons. I watched Sports Center 24 hours a day. I can't remember anything. But that's what's going, which is the only way that it could actually concern me. It's because if it was I forgot that I had a meeting today, it's okay, well, that's typical. But who played second base for the Braves in '98? I normally know this. So, all right, my beef. I I forgot it.
We have the same beef. We forget everything.
Oh no, I had it. But anyways,
We're gonna go with the gets. Both of us have got the
I'm
gets.
telling you what, my dad always says, calls it CRS. He's got a made up acronym of a disease for everything. Like he's got the NA disease, which refers to not having a rear end at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the CRS disease, which you can't remember stuff. I think we both have problems with both of those.
Yeah. So speaking of forget this segment happened. Let's talk some Grizzlies now.
All right, Rusty. Well, the Grizzlies played 2 games since we've talked last. They played Friday and Saturday night against the New York Knickerbockers and the San Antonio Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Games both in FedEx Forum, both decided with a dagger shot with less than 5 seconds on the clock by the opponent and left the Grizzlies holding 2 L's. The games were totally different. We'll just go in chronological order, I guess, if that suits you. Yeah. And you were in the house for the Knicks game. So
yeah, I don't want to belabor like, oh, here's what happened like in each quarter, but like broad brushstrokes, like it sucked. Like the Knicks game we were in total control of despite historically bad shooting numbers. Like,
right.
I do want to get into this because we had this debate spiritedly a little bit the other night in the group chat, but like, yeah, we went like 4 for 31 from 3, but you lost the game by 1 point and you had a shot to win it. So that doesn't hold a lot of water for me. Like, if you make 3 more threes, you win the game. Well, guess what? We didn't, and we still had a chance to win the game. The biggest frustration for me, and it was the biggest frustration for me was Taylor Jenkins in that game. Because Ja Morant is carrying the ball up the court, like shocker there, right?
Water is wet. Okay.
And all of us are sitting there watching it, including Taylor Jenkins, and we're all like in the forum, like, timeout. What are we doing? And Taylor's a fan over there, and we get an 8-second call for like in the most boneheaded basketball move you will ever see. Like, I don't get it. How are you over there just watching the game as a fan when we are Ja Morant is drowning on the court and you're like, I wonder what I could do. Mind you, we had not only 1, but 2 timeouts at that point. How do you get an 8-second call in the final 30 seconds with 2 timeouts? They don't carry over. Like, use them.
Listen, and the 2 timeouts ended up being well needed. But you may not have needed both of them if you called.
You can use one there. I guarantee you don't need the other.
So, Taylor Jenkins had his most egregious mistakes Friday night. I said it at the time. I said it.
Hang on, Paul. We got more coming on Saturday night too. But continue.
His most egregious mistake was Friday night of the whole season. I have been one to criticize Taylor on many occasions, but also I've been watching a lot of Cobra Kai. I was late to the party. I don't know if you've watched Cobra Kai on Netflix, but it's pretty good. And it calls back a lot to the original Karate Kid movies. I mean, you've got Daniel LaRusso and you've got William Zabka that play both vital roles in the series. But it flashes back a lot to Mr. Miyagi, the wisest man to ever walk God's green earth. And you got to remember, it's wax on, it's wax off. Life is about balance. You were just all wax off. It's just all Taylor and never anything else. And so I'm going to be the one to provide like balance here. Okay.
I don't.
Taylor made his most egregious mistake. It was awful. And it was a lapse. I think you're absolutely right. He was watching the game and he was not coaching the game in that moment. And that's the first time this year where I was like, that singular mistake by Taylor Jenkins cost us the game. There is no other way to put that.
Because that, and then you compound it with telling, like, we're going to crash
we'll get there.
All right. Because it got compounded. I got more beef with
Taylor
than just
that one mistake lost the game. If you don't make that mistake, Vince Williams, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it's important to keep balance here because I've always been of the opinion that players win and lose games way more than coaches. Taylor lost that game because of the time and the timing of the error that he made. There was less than 30 seconds left in the game. You allowed just a bogus 8-second call. What I think happened there is he thought Ja got fouled. Ja thought Ja got fouled. And when have you ever seen Ja not be able to get the ball across half court line? I think we were all stunned by that.
But the foul didn't happen until like the 8th second when Josh Hart hit him.
Well,
like there was like 7.5 seconds that he should have called the timeout.
More
like
time than that,
but,
like,
like,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Why do you even wait?
It doesn't
that
matter.
Long? Yeah,
it doesn't
wait
matter
that long.
But in that game, the Grizzlies made as many 3-point attempts in the second half as I did. 0. I mean, I wasn't even in the arena.
I get that, Drew, but in spite that
they played they shot the ball at historically low levels, and the Knicks didn't play well either. And that's the frustrating part to me, is that you got superstar Knicks in Madison Square Garden and you didn't bring your A game and got blown off the face of the earth and you quit. But then they came here, they didn't play their A game, and you couldn't bring your C game.
I'm trying to track with you, Drew, but I'm just so sick of these excuses because yes, I've got the stats right here. We shot 12.9% from 3. If the players had made, if a frog had wings, his butt never would touch the ground. We didn't make the threes, and we still had a lead with 30 seconds to go in the game. So that doesn't hold water to me because we shot 46%. We shot better from the field than the Knicks did. We shot 95%. When have the Memphis Grizzlies ever shot 95% from the free throw line? We were 21 and 22.
That was impressive.
So
but
we
you had to have every
well,
single one of them.
But we still had the lead for Taylor to flub like with not only the timeout, and then he told him in the timeout, like on the shot that OG hits to win the game,
right?
Don't give up a 2. Vince, crash, guard Cat. Don't let Cat get that 2. A 2 only ties it.
It was Brunson.
Brunson. Like a 2 only ties it. If Brunson shoots a layup and misses and Cat gets it and puts it back in, we go to overtime. But you leave OG Anunoby by himself. I'm talking nobody within 20 feet of him. Yeah. And Brunson, being the great player he is, kicks it out. And then what's frustrating is once again, after the game, Taylor's like, we just got to be better. I told Vince to crash, blah, blah, blah. Not realizing, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, why are you telling him to crash and defend only the game time? Like, give up the 2. That's fine. We could beat him in overtime. Don't leave a very good 3-point shooter by himself in the corner for the game winner. Like what? Okay. Like we're in year 6 and you're still making boneheaded in-game decisions. And I'm tired of the excuses for, we didn't shoot well or we fouled too much or whatever. Like those things matter. But when you're coaching players that way,
separate.
Hang on. When you're coaching players that way, when you're not calling timeouts, when you're running out lineups like you ran out on Saturday, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm done with the excuses, man. And I'm done with your coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is a difference in reasons and excuses. Yeah, it's something I tell my kids all the time. Like, shooting 12.9% from 3 is not really a cop-out for Taylor. It is just a fact.
It is, but you still had a chance to win the game.
And
you still had a chance to win the game.
All right, I'll just refresh everybody before everybody paints me as the apologist when I'm just trying to wax on and wax off. Okay. I called this egregious, his worst mistake he's ever made. Okay. Like that's noted. That's on the record. Rewind it if you want to hear me say it again in a minute. It was the worst mistake he's ever made. The thing with the Brunson, OG Anunoby thing, this is something that I spoke about on the Daily Grind yesterday's show with Luke. So I equated that decision to a football coach going for 2, down 1 with zeros on the clock. You see this happen a lot, especially in college football when you're dealing with the weird college football overtime rules. So you go for the win, but if you don't get it, you lose. All right. So that's how I equated this. Do you throw 2 at Brunson, who shoots 75%, it seems like, from that spot on the court where he is driving to make that shot? Or do you go for that? That is kicking the extra point and tying the game going overtime. Or do you get it out of his hands and force the 2-point conversion, go for 2 in this analogy, and kick it to OG Anunoby, who's a 34% 3-point shooter, and say win or lose? That's where I kind of sat with that. And it was like, OG Anunoby, he was wide open, yes. If he makes it, you lose. If he misses it, you win. But it's on the hand of a 35% 3-point shooter.
You still don't leave him you don't leave somebody like that by themselves.
But if he misses it, you're praising him for getting the ball out of Brunson's hands. in my opinion. That's where I sit on it. Brunson's going to make that shot is the same shot that De'Aaron Fox took the next night and beat us. Okay, it's the same shot.
Yeah, but I think you still take your chances with all the because you knew Brunson was going to drive. We had the bodies there, but there's always that kick out chance.
Yeah,
and NBA players don't miss threes. I don't care if they're 35 or 45. They don't miss wide open threes like that very often. It's not a great strategy.
That shot is not a 35% make miss. You know, that's more of a 50-50. But I still believe Brunson's making 65 to 75% of that shot. And at that point, I mean, how many times have we said it in the past? It's like, you don't want to let who's the most clutch player in basketball right now? Would you say Steph Curry? Yeah. You don't let Steph Curry take his shot. Fine if, who's still left on the Warriors? I almost said Wiggins, but you let
Jimmy Butler or somebody take
Jimmy Butler take a three, or you let anybody else other than Steph Curry. I feel like that's what the conversation was anybody but Brunson take the shot.
Yeah, but again, if it's a 2-pointer, like you live with that. Like you live with what you got.
I get it. But it was a all-in move. And it backfired.
Big time. And speaking of backfire, like I'm curious about this before we move completely off the Knicks game. Gary Parrish talked about this a little bit on the show earlier today. I saw this graphic over the weekend. It's a tale of two different basketball teams, and I'm not saying that one is right. I think what the Knicks are doing clearly isn't working. It's never worked for Tibbs because how many rings does he have? 0. So it doesn't work. His strategy doesn't work. But for comparison, the New York Knicks are first in starter minutes. That's obvious. Any Tibbs team is. And they're first in starter points. The Memphis Grizzlies, how many teams are in the NBA, Drew? Remind me.
30.
The Memphis Grizzlies are 30th in starter minutes.
I saw this stat. Yeah.
18th in starter points. The Knicks are 30th in bench minutes and bench points, and the Memphis Grizzlies are first in bench minutes and bench points. I love the idea that we have this deep bench, and this is great. That's not going to help us come playoff time as our lineups shrink, although we were without our four of our better players, and Taylor still managed to play 11 guys on Saturday, and one of them winning Marvin Bagley, which we'll get to in a minute. But, I think there's a happy medium in there somewhere because what we're doing is not – it's working against bad basketball teams, not the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday. But, I don't know how many contenders and great basketball teams you're going to beat when your starters are your 25-year-old starters are literally playing the least amount of minutes out of any starters in the NBA. And I get there's a whole conversation we're going to have in a minute about guys sitting out and ducking games and stuff that we're going to ask some hard questions in a minute about. But 30th, that's another egregious coaching malpractice if that's truly what's going on. Because again, it feels like we go into a game with an agenda for minutes and we never deviate from it no matter what. You watch the Nuggets and these other teams. The Nuggets came to mind because I watched them some over the weekend where I forget the other team goes on a run. It's like a 10-2 run, and Malone calls a timeout and puts Joker right back in. He just came out right before the run, but he put him in because he knew he needed a run starter, and you don't see that from Taylor Jenkins. So there's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
I'm in 100% agreement on that one. There has to be. You got to get out of it, and the thing is it doesn't match up because. I guess we'll go ahead and use my point here to transition. If you're going to play in the Knicks game, you play Ja 31, Dez 35, Jaren 34. Those are your 3 big point minute getters. You only played them let's talk about Ja and Dez. You only played them 31 and 35. If you're going to play them shallow minutes, then they should be able to play back-to-backs.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's where the conversation starts with me for the San Antonio game is the fact that I don't know if it's the front office. I don't know if it's Taylor. I think it's at least
it's a combination.
And you've got to include John Dez in this because they are making way too much money to be told that they're not playing. It's just they're at least complicit in the fact that they are not playing in this back-to-back. And it just sends a terrible message after a gut-wrenching loss against a top 4 seed in the East. You lose that game in such gut-wrenching fashion that you just wave the white flag to the fans on Saturday. And it triggers this awful start. Now, thanks to a heroic performance from Jaren, like you get back into that game, but that was ugly, and it was ugly from the start. And it was, to me, it's because you just didn't come ready to play because you knew that your two of your top three players, most important players in this franchise, didn't play.
Agreed. And that's what's so frustrating is like these guys are 25 years old. They're they're not even in their prime yet. They're still young, and we're not able to go back to back. Like when you've got, and again, it brings up some questions, right? Like, is it the players that are coming in and saying, look, I'm hurt, quotes, I'm not going to play. You know, Desmond did have a groin issue allegedly and was out. It was ended up being like a game time decision and was having some issues with that. The Ja Morant thing is another conversation because this was the first time in 2 years that he's played 5 games in a row and we couldn't make it to 6 as he sat out on Saturday with shoulder soreness. And it's just, it's very concerning.
You're 60 games into the season. Everybody's playing hurt.
That's what I was just about to say. It's very concerning because it shows like other guys are playing with nicks and bruises. Like nobody's healthy at this point of the season. Nobody. It's just who can push through some of these injuries. And if it's a major thing, like if it's truly Ja's AC joint acting up, or if Dez has a legit groin strain, that's one thing. But you play 35 minutes, you don't play Saturday, and now you're not on the injury report at all on Monday. And it's just something's not adding up in a lot of ways here. Now, Ja is still questionable. Santi is now listed as questionable. But, like, I just – the math ain't mathing for a guy who ain't even good at math. It just doesn't – like, there's something going on that gives me pause.
And I get preventative maintenance, this whole thing, like you want to stay fresh. Like, I get all that. But the reason why you lost that San Antonio game is because your stars didn't play. And they didn't play after they finished the game the night before. And so you can tell me that they're achy and sore or whatever. You finished the game. Brandon Clark got stitches, and he did not come back into that game Friday night. And then he didn't play Saturday.
But he's playing Monday.
But nobody's over here saying Brandon Clark should have played. No, we saw it. He bled. He went into the locker room. He got stitches, and we never saw him come back onto the court again.
My seats are in Pinnacle 9, so between the lower and upper bowl, and I can see the blood on the floor from where I was sitting up way on the other end of the court. Like, you could see the pool, and it's like, man, he's done. But then you got these other guys that are just ducking, and it's like – and I do want to pause really quickly and say one of these guys we're not talking about is Jaren Jackson Jr., who put up 42 Saturday night and continues to carry this team. It's coming. But you've got to start looking at your superstar. Ja, I know if you're listening, brother, like I am like a huge fan of yours, man, but like this team goes as Ja goes. And if Ja is sitting out games because he's got little bumps and bruises, that leads to frustrations that you see, like what we saw from Santi Aldama and his quote in the post-game interview after the San Antonio game.
For the Daily Memphian had the quote. If you don't have it pulled up, Rusty, I've got it here.
Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
This is what Santi Aldama had to say after the Grizzlies versus the Spurs game on Saturday. This is per DeMichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal. Santi said, quote, energy is not there. We're just letting teams punk us every single night, and then we make up for it, and we just hope the coin flips our way. And I couldn't put it best if I said it myself. Because what it is, and we've talked about this so many times, I feel like, is you get behind early because you're not ready to play, only to exert all your energy just to get even. And then there's the coin flip. And Saturday night, De'Aaron Fox hit the shot. And OG Anunoby hit the shot. You called heads on both of them. It came up tails on both of them. And you had no reason to even be in that spot to start with.
Agreed. It's what we see time and time again. Now you sprinkle on top of that, we're going to miss games because we're a little bit sore. We're not going to play on a back-to-back. And we're not respecting the game, as Santi said. And it's biting us. 100%. Like, I'm not I don't know what I was trying to say, but like the game is biting you because you're not respecting it and treating it well. I've got the gets already. You're not treating the game well. It's not going to treat you well. You're going to go out and shoot 31% or 12% and then 28% from three. Like the game knows, man. Like the phrase "ball don't lie." And if you're not respecting the game, like you're going to have issues like what we're seeing, and we're missing guys when we need them. Jaren did everything he could do on Saturday night to will us to a win. and he just came up short because he didn't have his running mates with him. You know, if Ja and or Dez, either one of them play in that game, we win pulling away because we won most of the night except for when it mattered late.
Yeah. So, and you can't tell me for a second that Ja deciding he's not going to play, Desmond taking the night off, all this doesn't contribute to Luke Kennard, of all people, blowing his lid. Of all people, Luke Kennard's going to be the one that gets pissed, and the whistle did not go his way fine, but you don't see Luke Kennard doing that. It looks like him on Saturday night against the Spurs looked like somebody who showed up to work mad. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you just weren't going.
And so what we're seeing
is going to go bad.
We're seeing there's some if you're looking close enough and paying attention, there's some cracks and you're starting to see some fissures in the locker room. You got Santi saying stuff. You got Ja's negative energy, and he's got a lot of stuff going on, but we've had negative energy from Ja. Luke coming out frustrated. There's been a lot of, if you're looking at the tea leaves, there is something that is going on with this Memphis Grizzlies basketball team. And a lot of it, it's to me, it starts with leadership. It starts with coaches and superstars. And coaches the players play the game, but coaches are a big part of having players in the right position, doing the right things. I don't understand how you play 11 guys when you've got 4 of your best players that are out. Vince, BC, Ja, and Dez. I don't get that. We ran out some weird lineups once again. I know it's a back-to-back.
This is consistent though, because when are you making this argument again? When you're down players. You've got to throw S at the wall and see what sticks when John Desmond's not playing and your bench guys are not dependable every single night.
I'm so sorry, but I don't buy it against the Spurs. You got to win the game, Drew. We're now 0-2 in a homestand that includes a game against Oklahoma City coming up on Wednesday. I don't know what I need to do to shake you and the other half of our fan base out of this slumber that's Taylor Jenkins does no wrong. It's only on the players. Taylor Jenkins does no wrong. Because bro, hang on. Because what you do is you throw Jalen played 39 minutes. Jaren should have played 40 minutes. Santi should have played 40 minutes. Edie should have played 40 minutes. You run your best guys. I don't need to see. I know it's 3 minutes. I don't need Jay Huff minutes. I don't need 17 minutes from John Conchar, and I don't need him to start. I don't understand why we're in this trance, and it's what? It's only on the players.
No, it's balance.
What are we doing?
It's balance. I've criticized, and now I'm going to criticize this person. And I'm holding a pacifier as a nervous tick. I just found it on the floor.
That's why I always hold a pen. I always have a pen. And I'm not taking any notes.
It's all about balance. No, I don't understand me and Luke, you obviously didn't do your homework on me. We talked about this on the Daily Grind this morning too. The Conchar thing is weird. I don't really have a good explanation for it other than maybe it being that Bismack Biyombo was the only big man that is on San Antonio's roster, and he just wanted Edie to go in soon as Biyombo came out and be the biggest matchup nightmare. It's the only thing I can think of, and that's a stretch, I think. I don't really have a good – I don't really have –
It almost feels like Jake LaRavia PTSD, like things are going well. Jake LaRavia, my boy.
I love Jake LaRavia. I do not have that same affinity for John Conchar, okay? Don't speak that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. You wasted the San Antonio game. Jaren gave you 35 minutes, 42 points in those 35 minutes. He shot 5 of 8 from 3 when the team only shot 11 of 38. So the team shot 6 of, let's see, where's my number? 6. What is 38 minus 8? 30. 6 of 30 from 3 without Jaren. And it was just a Jaren Jackson Jr. show.
You know what that sounds like to me? You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a Supermax.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. So there was a tweet. I think it was Drew Hill that came out during the San Antonio game when everybody was griping about Ja and Dez and then comparing their absence to Jaren's presence. And he sent out some kind of cryptic tweet, and this isn't a quote, but it's to the effect of Jaren and the front office both agree that there is a reason why he needs to be playing right now. And the only thing that is they are lobbying for a defensive player of the year or an all-NBA team. For the reasons that I've said before, if he doesn't make one of those, other teams will be able to offer him more money than the Memphis Grizzlies will be. because they got such a steal on his second contract.
Yeah, and you don't realize how, like, a lot of, like, if you're casual, you're new to this, like, I understand if you just come into it and you're like, no, we don't need to pay Jaren all that money. It's not his fault that that's what he's going to be worth, the $346 million. Much like when Mike Conley signed the highest paid contract in the history of the NBA, it happened when the TV money came in and it upped the CBA and what players could make. Similar concept here. It's not Jaren's fault that he's coming up due for a contract when the CBA goes up and the Supermax goes up and you can pay these players these massive amount of money. Jaren is just benefiting from that and making his case that he deserves it with performances like Saturday night, carrying this team without the other superstars, and absolutely hooping.
So, Jaren Jackson Jr. has played in 58 of the 60 games that the Memphis Grizzlies have played this year. He missed the first 2 games of the season, and he has played 58 straight.
Yeah.
He needs to play. There's see if there's 58 games, there's 22 games left. So, he's got to play 15 of the next 22 games to remain. No, he's got to play 5 of the next 22 games to remain eligible for the Supermax. Once he gets to the 65 game mark, then, or I guess 7 games, he's got to play 7 games of the next 22. Once he reaches the 65 game mark, then you may start looking at Jaren taking a day off every once in a while. But they're protecting him from like a 2-week injury in the middle of the season and forcing him to play the remainder.
And, Drew, like, I hear that. Like, yeah, we may save him some for the playoffs, but if we keep playing games like we did over the weekend, we're going to be in a hair on fire situation to where we're going to need to win every single basketball game that we play. Jaren's not going to have that luxury if we keep losing to the Spurs and the Knicks and stumbling through. I don't know. Again, if we lost to the Hawks last night, losing to the Hawks before we play the Thunder on Wednesday, like, we're getting to a situation we're not going to have that luxury, because these games are going to start adding up. Like, I listened to it like it's just November, it's just December, it's just January. Well, it's March now, right? Now's the time we got to start playing with our hair on fire. Basketball really matters now because we, tenderfooted around, for lack of a better excuse, throughout the early parts of the season, let games slip away like the Knicks and the Spurs. We're now in a situation where we have to play our best basketball every night.
Let me say that I feel like the floor right now is the 5 seed for the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's where I want to stay. I want to stay at the 4 or 5 matchup. That's where I'm at. I don't want to go up. I do not want to go up to 3. I do not want to go up to 2. I want a first-round matchup with the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets right now have a 5-game lead on a 3-way tie for 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. That is Golden State, Minnesota, and
the
Dallas.
Clippers. No,
the Clippers. I'm sorry. I want to play the Rockets in the first round. I do not want to go to 3 and play the Golden State Warriors. That is a nightmare scenario. I do not want to go up and risk playing the Clippers. I don't want to do it. I do not want to play Kawhi Leonard and James Harden and those 35-year-old superstars who've done this before. I do not, under any circumstance, want to rush our way to the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed only to get, as a reward for winning more regular season games, a first-round matchup with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. That is a nightmare. I don't want any part of it. Give me Houston 10 times out of 10.
And this is where I'm going to disagree, because if you play up to the 2 seed, 2 things happen. If it ends today and you're the 2 seed, you play Minnesota, who we own.
Maybe.
B, right, if it ends today and you're the 2 seed, you play Minnesota, who's the 8th seed. Let's just for that. You also get home court advantage. We have seen time and time again in the regular season, in the playoffs, we are not a good road basketball team. Most teams play better at home. I get that. But we're young mentally. We make immature decisions, immature mistakes, and we always come out flat when we play at LA or we play at Denver or at Houston. I want no part of not having home court advantage through the first 2 matchups. If that means we have to go through Golden State or the Clippers, fine. As Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And if we have to backdoor away, and there's no guarantee that we're going to beat Houston. We're 1-4. We're 1-3 against Houston the 4 times we played them this year. This is a different Houston team, but they are physical, and they know what beats us, and that's being physical. And they'll go right back to being physical against us.
If you go up to the 2 seed, if it ends today, you play the Warriors. They're the 7th seed. If it ends today, if you go up to the 3 seed, you're playing the Clippers. I don't want any part of either of them. I know you've got, that gives you first round. I mean, that gives you home court advantage. If you get to the 2 seed, it gives you the home court advantage in the second round. But at that point, like I've said it on this show, you get to the dance and weird things happen. Indiana Pacers made it to the conference finals because Giannis Antetokounmpo had a groin injury. Like things happen.
Sure.
I want my goal, my only angle is the best first round matchup. That's the only thing I care about. And right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 8th. They've got a first round matchup with Oklahoma City. We're not going to have to talk about Minnesota anymore. Yeah. Minnesota would be the team I would cherry pick out of all of them.
Sure.
I just don't see a situation in which Minnesota either gets up to the 5 or 6 seed or the Grizzlies get up to the 1 or 2 seed.
And I'm looking at it like from a historical, like we don't play well on the road, period. Doesn't matter who we play. And I'm just trying to get us set up for as big of an advantage as I can. And if that means we have to go through Golden State or we have to go through some of these teams that then so be it. But at least we have home court throughout that.
I would rather play Houston in a 7-game series in which all 7 games were in Houston than play Golden State with a home court advantage.
Man, I don't know about that.
I don't care. It is
losing
Steph
both of
Curry
because we're
who's
losing
got
both of
4
them.
rings, and Jimmy Butler, who is one of the best postseason players of all time. They have currently won 7 of their last 10, and there's no scenario in which I want to play. I'm going to choose to play.
We're losing both of those, by the way, because we don't play well on the road. We have to say at least the 4 seed is my argument. Like I don't want to go below 4.
I said 4.
You said 5.
No,
if we fall to 5,
minimum 5. But yeah,
because if you fall to 5, you're playing at Houston and you're going to lose that series because they're going to punk you by being more physical because we are not tough.
A stat that Paris Sharkey, if you're not following Paris Sharkey, follow him on Twitter. He is the Bluff City Media Grizzlies beat reporter, and he had a stat that debunks everything that you've just said. He said it on the Daily Grind. Once again, you did not do your homework. The Grizzlies have lost their last 3 game 1s at home as the higher seed. In FedEx Forum, they're 0 for their last 3 in game 1s.
Cool, it's 1 game, but you still have an opportunity to win out at home versus having to play more games on the road.
And none of those have ever went to 7 to where home court matters at the end.
That's the hardest thing about playoffs is because our sample size is so skewed because of injuries. And so cool, that's a cute stat, but it still doesn't change the fact that we are a better home basketball team over the course of a long series. It's cute, but
I do not want to play Steph Curry. If you do, then you I hope they don't ask your opinion. I don't want any part of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, who single-handedly takes Miami to the Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals.
I'm looking at it trying to set us up for the most advantage that we can get, and that's
the most advantage is not playing Steph Curry.
If you're scared, say you're scared. That's fine, man. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, honestly,
greatest player in the last.
Honestly, this conversation is moot because, like, as long as your boy's the head coach and our players are ducking games and we're not playing like we're supposed to, it doesn't matter. We're going to be a first round exit anyway. Like, you've got to show some growth, starting with the game tomorrow night against Oklahoma City. Like, we've got to find a way to beat some of these playoff teams and actually play winning basketball.
Yeah, you got to have mojo, and we are recording this before the Atlanta game, but what I'm hoping out of this Atlanta game is that you just show up and show out. You know, the biggest gripe that I've had since the All-Star break and since everybody got healthy is that you have home run efforts and then you follow them up with duds. And that's what we've done. We had a home run effort against Phoenix. You had a home run effort the night before, even though in a loss against Cleveland on the road. But then you followed that up with not shooting the ball against New York Knicks, and then a boneheaded lack of coach's decision late in the fourth quarter, and then your star sitting out against San Antonio. First off, don't ever sit your stars out in home games. People pay to see you. Memphis pay to see you.
Absolutely. And then the Spurs, who beat us by 2, turn around and play at home against Oklahoma City and got boat raced on Sunday. Like, this is like
that was a good game.
They got beat 146 to 130.
270 points in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you lose by 14, and like we got that same Oklahoma City team coming on Wednesday. But listen, that's it. That's all the Grizzlies talk for today. Go get a win. Hope you got a win last night against the Hawks. If you did, great. If not, go get a win tomorrow night against the Thunder.
If it turns out that the Hawks beat the Grizzlies, it's a good thing that we recorded this a day early.
Oh, it would have been. It's going to be ugly. That's the case because Ja Morant, more than anything, needs to play and needs to go punk Trae Young, or this is going to get ugly.
Yeah.
But got a quick segment before we wrap up the show. I'll let y'all get back to your busy Tuesdays.
All right, we'll keep this real quick because Rusty does not want to talk about his college baseball team's performance over the weekend. But I will take over the whole segment.
Well, listen, I got to get back to work anyway, so it's got to be short regardless.
Yeah, the Ole Miss Rebels have won every game in the last week. They have not played anybody other than Southern Miss that's any good. And then they won 3 games against Wright State in dominant fashion. Wright State's typically an all right team. You'll see them as a 3 seed. Routinely as a 4 seed in the college baseball tournament every year. And so it's just a good win. Tomorrow's game against Arkansas State got canceled because of inclement weather. And then this weekend they play some other schmuck before next weekend's big conference opener against Arkansas and Oxford. Rusty, you played good teams. How'd you hold up?
Yeah, I went 1-2. Lost 2 nail. Like we lost Saturday was more of a nail biter. It was a close back and forth. Lost 6-5 to Arizona. You won on Friday, beating Rice. I mean, they're not a powerhouse by any means like they used to be. They used to be a perennial.
Lance Berkman, what up?
Perennial regional site host, sometimes super regional host. Not what they once were. Beat them. You lose 6-5 to Arizona. And then on Sunday, you just get in a hole. It was like 7-1, and you come all the way back, just like the Memphis Grizzlies, but all this effort to make it 9-8, and then you just run out of steam. And a lot of it's been some of our leaders are not leading like we thought. Hunter Hines has been awful this year, particularly with runners on base. Like we lead the NCAA right now in runners left on base. We're getting guys on base. We just can't get them across the plate. And that's what's going to bite us. We've got a tune-up game this week, and I think ours got canceled because of the inclement weather as well. But you got some things to clean up prior to the SEC opener in 2 weeks. And one of the thing is you got to start getting runners home. You're getting them on base. We got guys that are getting on base. We're pitching fairly well. We had a little bit of a lapse on Sunday, but we're pitching well, setting ourselves up for success. We just can't get runs across the plate. But, still 2 weeks. You still got a weekend series to clean it up in a midweek before we start playing SEC ball. There are now
opening weekend.
I wrote it down the other day. Honestly, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but
no,
it's South Carolina.
South Carolina just got swept by Clemson, who Ole Miss beat earlier this year, and it's a good weekend for Ole Miss. You got a lot of help. You got your wins, and then Arizona beat Mississippi State. That makes it look good. Clemson beat South Carolina 3 times. That makes that win look good. And your losses to Texas, who I believe is still undefeated. You can tell me.
They're not undefeated anymore. So we got Southern Miss. Yeah, Southern Miss tomorrow night, Tuesday night. It is still tentatively scheduled. We got Southern Miss again before we play Queens College next weekend, and then we open with Texas. We got Texas as our SEC opener, and it's at home March 14th.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas is a decent team, but your 7 undefeated teams are your Tennessee Vols, Florida State Seminoles, North Carolina Tar Heels, Alabama's 12-0, West Virginia's 11-0, SEC, Oklahoma newcomer 11-0, and Murray State, shout out Ja Morant, is 7-0. They're your only 7 undefeated college baseball teams as of this recording. So college baseball's tuning up. Again, we've got some State still got games against Southern, Queens, Nichols State. Like we've got some tune-ups before Texas comes to town, and you got to get your head right if you're going to actually play and be competitive in the SEC this year, which we have the talent to do. We just got to start driving runners in.
Why in the world is Mississippi State on a tour of New York City?
No, we got Manhattan.
They played Manhattan in the first weekend, and now Queens College is located in Flushing, New York.
Listen, man, we know our sweet spot. We pull those guys down, we beat them, and we send them back to New York.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks for hanging with us and being patient with us as we muddled our way through the Gits and this show and the Grizzlies and whatever else came up. But don't hold it against us because there are no refunds for what you hear on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you again on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.